It's great to be here again. I look forward to attending in person in the future. The Tesla Autopilot does work reasonably well in China, but we are building up our engineering team in China. And so if you're interested in working at Tesla China as an engineer, we would love to have you work there. That would be great. I really want to emphasize this a lot, that we are going to be doing original engineering in China. So it's not just converting sort of stuff built in America to work in China. We will be doing original design and engineering in China. So please do consider Tesla China if you're thinking about working somewhere. So I'm extremely confident that level 5, or essentially complete autonomy, will happen, and I think it will happen very quickly. I think at Tesla, I feel like we're very close to level 5 autonomy. I remain confident that we will have the functionality the basic functionality for level 5 autonomy complete this year. Yes, I think there are no fundamental challenges remaining for level 5 autonomy. There are many small problems, and then there's the challenge of solving all those small problems and then putting the whole system together, and just keep addressing the long tail of problems. So you'll find that you'll be able to handle the vast majority of situations, but then there'll be something very odd, and then you have to have the system figure out a trait to deal with these very odd situations. And this is why you need a kind of a real world situation. Nothing is more complex and weird than the real world. Any simulation we create is necessarily a subset of the complexity of the real world. So, we're really deeply enmeshed in dealing with the tiny details of level 5 autonomy, but I'm absolutely confident that this can be accomplished with the hardware that is in the Teslas today, and simply by making software improvements, we can achieve level 5 autonomy. Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with dividing it into those categories: perception, cognition, and action. But if you do use those categories, I'd say that probably perception, we've made, if you say like recognition of objects, we've made incredible progress in recognition of objects. In fact, I think it would probably be fair to say that an advanced image recognition system today is better than almost any human, even in an expert field. So it's really a question of like how much compute power, how many computers were required to train it, how many compute hours, what was the efficiency of the image training system. But in terms of image recognition or sound recognition, and really any signal, you can say, like, generally speaking, any byte stream. A modern AI system blend things accurately with it for a given byte stream extremely well. Cognition, this is probably the weakest area. If you say like, do you understand concepts and are you able to reason effectively, and can you be creative in a way that makes sense? Because you have certainly advanced AIs that are very creative, but they do not curate their creative actions very well. And so we look at it and it's like it's not quite right. It will become right though. And then action, sort of, I think maybe you think of like things like games as maybe something part of the action part of things. Obviously, at this point, any game with rules, AI will be superhuman at any game with an understandable set of rules. Like, it's essentially any game below a certain degree of freedom level. So really, I'd say at this point, any game, there's really, it would be hard pressed to think of a game where if there was enough attention paid to it, that we would not make it superhuman AI that could play it. And that's not even taking into account the faster reaction time of AI. So in developing AI chips for Autopilot, what we found was that there was no system on the market that was capable of doing inference within a reasonable cost or power budget. So if we'd gone with a conventional GPUs and CPUs and that kind of thing, we would have needed several hundred watts, and we would have needed to fill up the trunk with computers and GPUs and a big cooling system, and it would not have been. It would have been very, very costly. So it would have costly, bulky, and taken up too much power, which is important for range for an electric car. So we developed our own AI chip, the Tesla full self-driving computer, with dual smart chips with the 8-bit and accelerators for doing the dot products. I think a lot of people, well, probably a lot of people in this audience are aware of it, but AI consists of doing a great many dot products. This is like, if you know what a dot product is, it's just a hell of a lot of dot products, which effectively means that our brain must be doing a lot of dot products. So we still actually haven't fully explored the power of the Tesla full self-driving computer. In fact, we only turned on the second system on chip partially a few months ago. So making full use of the Tesla full self-driving computer will probably take us at least another year or so. Then we also have the Tesla Dojo system, which is a training system, and that's intended to be able to process vast amounts of video data to improve the training for the AI system. So the Dojo system, and that's like a FP16 training system that is primarily constrained by heat. And by communication between the chips. And so we're developing new buses and new sort of heat rejection or cooling systems that enable a very high teraop, very high op, more than tera, very high operation computer that will be able to process video data effectively. To answer the question of like, how does AI, how do we see the evolution of AI algorithms? I'm not sure how the best way to understand this, except that what the neural net seems to mostly do is take a massive amount of information from reality, primarily passive optical, and create a vector space, essentially compress a massive amount of photons into a vector space. And I was just thinking, actually, on the drive this morning, that have you tried accessing the vector space in your mind? Like we normally take reality just for granted in kind of like an analog way, but you can actually, I think, access the vector space in your mind and understand what your mind is doing to take in all the world data, and what it's actually doing is trying to remember the least amount of information possible. So it's taking a massive amount of information, filtering it down, and saying what is relevant, and then how do you create a vector space world that is a very, very tiny percentage of that original data. And then based on that vector space representation, you make decisions. And so it's like really a compression, decompression that's just going on a massive scale, which is kind of like how physics is. Like you think of physics algorithms as essentially compression algorithms for reality. So that's what physics does. Those physics formulas are compression algorithms for reality.
简而言之，我们人类 就是物理学作用的
if you
证
simply
据。
ran a
如果你对宇
true
宙做一个
physics
真正物理学
simulation
意义上的模拟，
which is,
就
like,
是
and this
大
may
量
sound
的
very
计
obvious,
算
but if you
会
simply,
有
if
充
you
足
give
时
it
间，
enough time,
最
eventually you
终
will
会
have
产生
sentience.
觉知。
The proof of that is us.
人类便是最
And
佳证明。
if you believe
如果你
in
相信物理
physics
学
and art just
和宇宙的演
it
化
started
史，
out, as
便
sort
知
of
道宇宙一开始便是夸克
and
电子，
hydrogen
很长一段时间是氢元素，
and helium
然后出现了
of the
氦元
universe. So obviously it take a lot of compute, but a true physics simulation of the universe, if you give it enough time, eventually you will have sentience. The proof of that is us. And if you believe in physics and the origins of the universe, it started out, as sort of, quarks and leptons, and it was hydrogen for quite a while, and then helium and lithium, and then there were supernovas, the heavy elements formed, and billions of years later, some of those heavy elements learned to talk. And so we are essentially evolved hydrogen. If you just leave hydrogen out for a while, it turns into us. I think people don't quite appreciate this. So like, where does the specialness come in? Where does sentience come in? Like, either the whole universe is sentient and special, or nothing is, or maybe it's like you could say, like, at what point from hydrogen to us did it become sentient? Things are going really well at Giga Shanghai. I'm incredibly proud of the Tesla team. They're doing an amazing job, and I look forward to visiting Giga Shanghai as soon as possible. It's really impressive, the work that's been done. I really can't say enough good things. Yeah, thank you to the Tesla China team. Well, we expect over time to use more AI and essentially smarter software in our factory, but I think it will take a while to really employ AI effectively in a factory situation. You can think of a factory as a complex cybernetic collective involving humans and machines. This is actually how companies are, really. Thank you for having me in virtual form. I look forward to visiting physically next year. And I always enjoy visiting China. I'm always amazed by how many smart, hardworking people there are in China, and how much positive energy there is, and that people are really excited about the future and want to make things happen. So I can't wait to be back.